Were there any white people? Although there were a lot of white people who were injurious to native causes and complicit in the process of settler colonialism, in this video we're going to look at a few white people who were very good for the causes of native peoples. It's a question that we often ask when we look back at the tumultuous history between Native Americans and European settlers, especially in the 19th century. Amidst the conflicts, land grabs, and broken treaties, there were some individuals who stood out for their efforts to bridge the cultural divide and advocate for native rights. One of the most notable among them was Father Pierre-Jean De Smet, a Jesuit priest whose life and work offer a glimpse into the possibilities of understanding and respect across cultures. Our story begins in the small town of Dendermonde, Belgium, where Pierre-Jean De Smet was born on January 30th, 1801. From a young age, he showed a deep sense of spirituality and a calling to serve others. At 19, he entered the Jesuit novitiate, immersing himself in studies of theology and philosophy across Belgium, Italy, and France. In 1821, a turning point came in De Smet's life. He joined a group of fellow Jesuits on a mission to the United States, a land brimming with opportunities and challenges for the Catholic Church. The young priest was tasked with establishing missions and supporting the burgeoning Catholic communities in the New World. De Smet's initial years in America saw him stationed in Maryland and Missouri, where he completed his studies and was ordained as a priest in 1827. But his true calling lay further west, among the native tribes whose lives were being upended by the relentless westward expansion of European settlers. In 1838, De Smet had his first significant encounter with Native Americans when he was sent to establish a mission among the Potawatomi tribe in Council Bluffs, Iowa. It was a challenging assignment, but it sparked a profound interest in and respect for native cultures in De Smet. He learned their languages, immersed himself in their customs, and earned their trust. The real adventure began in 1840, when De Smet embarked on a journey to the Rocky Mountains to meet the Flathead tribe in what's now western Montana. The Flathead had requested black robes, or Jesuit priests, to come and teach them, and De Smet answered their call. This journey marked the beginning of his extensive missionary work among the tribes of the American West, including the Sioux, Blackfeet, and many others. His approach was unique. He didn't just preach to the Native Americans, he listened to them. He respected their ways and sought to understand their worldview. His humility and genuine care won him the trust and friendship of many tribes. Over the years, he founded numerous missions throughout the West, serving as centers for education, religious instruction, and support for Native communities. But his role went beyond that of a missionary. He became a mediator and a peacemaker, playing a crucial role in negotiations between Native tribes and the U.S. government. One of the most significant contributions he made was during the Treaty of Fort Laramie in 1851. De Smet's presence and influence helped facilitate dialogue and agreements between the tribes and government representatives. He tirelessly advocated for native rights, often putting himself at great personal risk. His travels were legendary. He journeyed an estimated 180,000 miles across the United States, Canada, and even back to Europe. His trips to Europe were essential for securing financial funding and recruiting more missionaries to aid in his work. Throughout his life, De Smet wrote extensively about his experiences. His letters and reports provide invaluable historical insights into the lives and cultures of native tribes he served. These writings stand as a testament to his dedication and the mutual respect he cultivated. In his later years, he continued his missionary work, despite the growing challenges. He returned to Europe several more times, always with the goal of gaining more support for his missions. He passed away on May 23, 1873, but his legacy lives on. He remains a symbol of what can be achieved when we approach others with respect and understanding. Next up, we'll talk about Helen Hunt Jackson, an author and activist whose relentless efforts shed light on the plight of Native Americans and fought for their rights. Helen Hunt Jackson was born on October 15, 1830 in Amherst, Massachusetts, where Helen Maria Fisk was born into a family that valued education and literature. Tragically, Helen lost her mother at a very young age and her father when she was just 17. But despite these early hardships, she grew into a well-educated and determined woman, later marrying a military engineer named Captain Edward Bissell Hunt. Helen's early adulthood was marked by further personal tragedies. She lost her husband in a tragic accident and shortly after both of her young sons. These heart-wrenching losses led Helen to channel her grief into writing, adopting the pen name Helen Hunt. Her early works, mostly poetry and children's literature, were well received. But it wasn't until a transformative experience that she found her true calling. In the early 1870s, Helen attended a lecture by the chief of the Ponca, Standing Bear, who spoke passionately about the injustices faced by his people due to U.S. government policies. Deeply moved by his words, Helen began to investigate the treatment of Native Americans more thoroughly. This marked the beginning of her lifelong commitment to their cause. In 1879, Helen married William Sharpless Jackson, a wealthy banker and railroad executive, which provided her with the financial stability and resources to focus on her advocacy work. She traveled extensively, visiting Native communities and documenting their struggles. Her first-hand observations fueled her writing and activism. Helen's most significant contribution to the fight for Native rights came in 1881 with the publication of her book, A Century of Dishonor. This powerful work detailed the U.S. government's repeated violations of treaties and its mistreatment of Native tribes. Helen sent a copy of the book to every member of Congress, hoping to ignite a sense of moral responsibility and spur legislative action. But her relentless advocacy did not stop there. Helen's passion culminated in her most famous and most exciting work, the novel Ramona, published in 1884. Set in Southern California, the book tells the story of a mixed-race Scottish Native American orphan who faces discrimination and hardship. While a love story at its core, Ramona was also a social commentary, highlighting the injustices suffered by Native Americans. The novel became immensely popular, raising public awareness about the Native cause and becoming a catalyst for change. Despite facing considerable criticism and resistance, Helen remained undeterred. She continued to write articles, letters, and reports, tirelessly fighting for better treatment and rights for Native Americans. Her work extended to lobbying for policy changes and supporting legal efforts to protect Native lands and cultures. Her health began to decline in the late 1880s, but she never ceased her advocacy. She passed away on August 12, 1885, in San Francisco, California. Even on her deathbed, she continued to express her commitment to justice for Native peoples, urging friends and colleagues to carry on the fight. Finally, we're going to look at a perhaps surprising person who helped Native rights in spite of being white, John Quincy Adams, the sixth President of the United States, who after his presidency became a powerful advocate for Native rights and abolitionism. John Quincy Adams was born on July 11, 1767, in Braintree, Massachusetts, into one of America's most prominent families. The son of John Adams, the second President of the United States, and Abigail Adams, John Quincy was destined for a life of public service. From a young age, he was exposed to the turbulent politics of the American Revolution and the early years of the Republic. Adams's education was extensive and international. He studied in Paris and Amsterdam and later graduated from Harvard College. His early career was marked by diplomatic service in Europe, where he honed his skills as a statesman and developed a deep understanding of international relations. In 1825, he was elected as the sixth President of the United States. His presidency was marked by significant achievements in infrastructure development and scientific advancement, but it was his post-presidential career, where he served in Congress, that truly defined his legacy. After losing the presidency in 1829 to Andrew Jackson, Adams was elected to the House of Representatives in 1830, where he served for 17 years until his death. It was during this time that he became a vocal opponent of slavery and a fierce advocate for Native rights. One of Adams's most notable stands for Native rights came in the 1830s, during the controversial Indian Removal Act. President Jackson's administration sought to forcibly relocate Native tribes from their ancestral lands in the southeastern U.S. to territories west of the Mississippi River. This policy led to the infamous Trail of Tears. Adams vehemently opposed the Indian Removal Act, arguing that it was both immoral and unconstitutional. He believed that the government had a duty to honor its treaties with Native American tribes and to respect their rights to their lands. His speeches and writings during this period were powerful indictments of the government's policies, and he used his position in Congress to draw attention to the injustices being committed. Adams' advocacy extended to specific cases, such as that of the Cherokee Nation. He supported the Cherokees' efforts to resist removal through legal means, backing their case in the landmark Supreme Court decision, Worcester v. Georgia. Although the court ruled in favor of the Cherokee, President Jackson refused to enforce the decision, leading to further suffering and displacement. Beyond his advocacy for Native Americans, Adams was a relentless abolitionist. He famously defended the Amistad captives, a group of African slaves who had mutinied and taken control of their ship. In a landmark Supreme Court case, Adams argued for their freedom, and the court ultimately ruled in favor of the captives, a significant victory for the abolitionist movement. John Quincy Adams' commitment to justice and equality made him a formidable figure in American history. His advocacy for Native rights and his fierce opposition to slavery were ahead of his time, reflecting a deep moral conviction that transcended his day's politics. Thank you again for listening.